Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chris Ortega. Welcome back to another Fresh CFO Fridays. I know it's been a minute, man. It's like crazy because it's already the end of May, and I was looking back through with my team. Last time we did one of these was back in February. There's been a lot going on in the business, but hope your Friday's going well. It is May 31st, which is crazy to think about. We're already 5 months through the year. We got one more month left in Q2. And then we're literally through halfway through the year. So, hey, but I want to do Fresh FP&A Friday, Fresh CFO Friday today. Today, we're going to be talking about bridging the gap, building collaboration with CFOs. And in this session, if this is your first time joining, first time tuning into a Fresh CFO Friday, my name is Chris Ortega. I'm the CEO of Fresh FP&A, and I lead a global fractional CFO and advisory service company that empowers small to medium-sized businesses, or SMBs, to seeking financial clarity and business growth. So, all right. So breaking down the gap, building better collaboration inside the business for finance, for fractional CFOs. And the first area that I want to talk about in like this collaboration element for CFOs, one of the first pieces of it is kind of talked a little bit about this before and also shared. And I do a lot of thought leadership, talk with CFOs, finance, and leaders all across the globe. The first key element that I want to talk about when you bridge this gap is, this may sound counterintuitive, but this is one thing I've learned in building Fresh FP&A is when you're working with business owners, founders, and outside of the finance organization, the number one thing I realized is don't think like a finance person. I know that that may sound weird. You're like, Chris, but I'm in finance. I'm a CFO, or I'm a VP of finance, or I'm an accountant, or I'm in finance. How are you telling me not to go collaborate outside of finance and don't think like a finance person? The reason why I say that is, the first one is, let me give you a practical example. So when I'm working with clients, right, I have a portfolio of clients that I work with. I work with small to medium sized business. So does my team. We help them grow. One of the biggest things I had to get over is when I'm supporting a CEO, business owner, founder, or working with sales, or working with marketing, or working with HR operations, is I had to stop thinking like a finance person and start thinking like the business person that I'm relating to, right? So when you're working with the CEO or you're working with the salesperson, right? Like the most important thing that you can go do is try to understand the shoes, the situation, the business, the department, the concerns, the frustration that that person is living in, right? The reason why that's so important in terms of collaboration is you're learning their part of the business. A lot of times, finance professionals, and I raise my hand in this. I've struggled with this and I've done it plenty of times in my career. You kind of come into that collaboration or that conversation and you're spitting out the numbers, you're spitting out the facts, you're dropping down the metrics, you're comparing to prior year, to budget, to your forecast. You're coming in deeply from the finance perspective. And one thing that I've just learned in my career, 20 plus years in accounting, finance, FP&A, and financial leadership, is that the moment you can take a step back and walk a day in that business person's shoes and say, okay, like I know I'm talking with the salesperson, and maybe the conversation's a good conversation, or maybe it's not like a good conversation, but you're living in those shoes. You're thinking like that sales leader, that marketing leader, that HR leader, that operations person. You're getting an inside view of what is going on in their operations. So I think for me, one of the first areas in building, bridging that gap and being better collaborators inside the business is think like the business, right? Another practical insight I'll give you around that first key point and key takeaway is specifically around like, go learn the business. You would be surprised how many finance, CFOs, and global professionals that I meet across the globe that don't know their business. They don't know their customer profile. They don't know sales. They don't know marketing, right? I'm not saying like, hey, Chris, are you telling me to go be a salesperson? No, I'm telling you to go understand their business. So many times finance just sits in this silo and we sit over in our corners with our Excel spreadsheets or our technology and our calculators, and we don't get in the business. So the best way that you can develop on that key insight of understanding the business and thinking like a business person is go learn the business. I think one of the great ways that we entrench ourselves in our clients is like we're business partners to solve business pain. We just do it from the financial lens. That's a completely different value proposition. We're going to be your business partners. We're going to intimately know your business pains, and we're going to help provide solutions, services, or products or services to help you turn that into value and we do that from a financial perspective. So that's really one of my first key insights that I want to provide specifically around how do you bridge that connection and bridge that relationship and how you increase that collaboration. The second thing I want to talk about is breaking down silos and breaking down like cultures. Cultures in finance organizations and other parts of the business are completely different, right? Like a sales culture may be different than the culture of a finance organization. Operations or client success part of the business may be significantly different than the finance organization. And the thing about that is that's okay, right? And every company has like your core company values, but there's always subcultures inside of different functional areas, right? And the thing I want to identify specifically around that is like when you identify and know that there's different company cultures inside of different businesses, like how do you integrate yourself in part of that? Let me give you another real life example. So I was at a high growth software company and particularly a high growth SaaS company. And always my primary two business partners that I would work with at a high growth SaaS company were always sales and marketing, right? And these are like my people. Like sales and marketing people are like literally my tribe. Like finance is my A tribe, and that's where I feel the most comfortable. But I would say a close second is like sales and marketing people. Like those are my guys. So shout out all the sales and marketing people that have great relationships with finance that I've worked with. But one thing I would always get in is like I would go and just attend some of their meetings, right? I remember specifically an example where we were struggling on our outreach and a lot of our marketing initiatives, right? And I would sit in and SDR or sales development reps, maybe in your organization, you call them BDRs, which are business development reps. But these are the people on the front lines. And I would tell you, shout out all the SDRs and BDRs at companies because that is one of the most challenging jobs in any business. Like these people work and get told no like 95% of the time, and they show up every day. And I sat in a meeting with our SDR team, and I was just I came into the meeting. It was like a standing weekly meeting that they had. I gave the heads up to the BDR leader that I was going to be stopping by, and as the meeting starts, you can kind of see the tension with everybody. Like you can see it's probably about 12 SDRs, including the leader and then like a manager. So including me is about 15 people in this meeting. And this was back when like in-person meetings happened. This wasn't virtual. And I'm in the meeting and you could just tell like the mood and the situation has changed. Like they were not you. They had a culture where they were not used to people outside of their team coming inside the meetings, right? And obviously being the financial leader of the group, they were just like, what is Chris doing here? And I can kind of sense that. I can sense that that was the team dynamic. I can sense that that was like not part of their culture to have people outside of their team come into it. Like I can understand intimately and feel that that was a big like area. So I said, hey guys, just before you start your meeting, I just want to kind of give some context and clarity of why I'm here, right? I want to learn more about what you do. I want to learn more about how I can help. I want to deeply understand some of the frustrations that you're seeing, some of the opportunities. So really my intention of being here is not, it's just really to be a sponge and learn. And I'm curious to know how I can help and support you or what are some other ways. And you can just see immediately when I proactively communicated that and my intention, here's what I'm looking to do. And I'm actually looking to learn from you, learn more about the business, learn more about the frustrations, some of the objections that you see. I want to learn more on the front end of how you guys are going about talking to clients, understanding customers, and literally how I can learn and help and support you. The moment I did that, the entire mood of the meeting changed. Like you seen these people that were like, wow, like Chris is here and I'm having opportunities to learn. And you just see like the entire energy of the meeting change, right? And like I'm in there having conversations and I'm like asking clarifying questions where I'm like, hey, like tell me a little bit more about that. Like, how did you solve that? And after the meeting was over, you get all these people coming up to me and they're like, Chris, dude, like that was awesome. You provide such great insight. It's great having a senior leader in our meeting. It's great being able to have someone that is trying to understand what we do and how you can help. And that became something that I just did reoccurring, right? So that story ties out of like one of the best ways that finance and outside the business is like you got to learn their cultures, right? Like a lot. And even now, as we deal with clients, one of our culture things is a lot of times our clients are remotely across the globe. So there are situations where I travel and I go meet with clients face to face on and when I travel, which is important to me. But one thing I say from a culture perspective for us is like, well, even if we're on virtual meetings, I want our cameras on. Like, even if the client or whoever's on the call on their side does not have the cameras on, I want us to be engaged. I want us to show up. I want us to have our cameras on. I want us to be attentive. I don't want us to be doing extra work off the side when we're doing stuff. That's part of our culture for clients that we work with. And that's the kind of partnership that we want to build with them. And we've had some clients where they're like, yeah, that's cool. And they all stay on like their cameras off and totally fine. And then I've had clients where it's just like they look at that and just like, hey, I like how personalized that is. Even though it is virtually, even though we're not face to face, being able to see that interaction, being able to communicate with somebody, like, and it's as simple as keeping a camera on, right? That was something that our clients were like, hey, Chris, like, we really like that. We like that you're engaged. We like that we can read your energy. We like that we can see when you're thinking through stuff. And they made a change and said, hey, when we're on meetings with you, we want to be a part of that, have our cameras on. So that secondary part is breaking down the silos or even around cultures, which is such a difficult thing for finance professionals because it's like it's not quantifiable, right? Like you have to feel and engage and kind of read how that is, right? And be able to judge and say, okay, like I know I'm fitting into a different culture in the team that's inside of my same organization, or I'm fitting into a different culture of a client that may be a little bit different. How can I be adaptable and how can I be flexible to still deliver what I want to show up and how I want to represent, but also be adaptable to that culture? So that's another key point in bridging that gap of communication and collaboration. The third piece I want to talk about is specifically around like building collaboration. And you look at some of the best relationships that you have, like some of the best relationships that I've had with clients that we work with, or in my past with business partners that I've worked with. It's built on two core competencies when it comes around relationships, which is collaboration is a relationship, and you're establishing that. And I want to talk specifically about the trust and the competency pillars of relationship building. So when you look at any relationship, whether it's personal or whether it's professional or whether you're like building a relationship outside of finance, typically it resolves on two key pillars. The first one is going to be trust, right? That's going to say, do I trust this person? Do I read them right? The second one of them is going to be competency, right? So those two key pillars are key insights when it comes around specifically of trust and competency, right? So when you think about that, for finance professionals, bridging the gap for collaboration, where do you think we focus on? Do we focus on trust or do we focus on established competency? Yeah, you're right. Finance people traditionally focus on competency. We want to be the smartest finance person. We want to know all of our numbers. We want to know the new the new accounting guidance. We want to be subject matter experts in everything in finance, right? But in terms of building a relationship with somebody outside of finance, that's honestly the worst pillar you can focus on. The reason why, that continues to develop that stereotype of like, oh man, I'm dealing with another finance professional and they're not going to know our business. And like, they're spitting all these metrics, they're spitting all these numbers out. I don't know exactly what they're talking about. and they're making it, they're spitting this information out, doing all these different things, and it's like really hard for me to grasp with them, right? Focus on that first pillar. Focus on building the trust. Here's a practical way that you could take away right now, whether you're in finance, whether you're in sales, whether you're in any operational area. If you want to get to establish and bridge that gap in that relationship, if you want to establish trust, one of the key phrases or ways that you can go initiate that, go understand their business and ask them this one simple question. What are the challenges, opportunities, pains, and frustrations that you see in your business? And how can I help and support you in solving them? That question is monumental. The reason why that question is so powerful is because you're coming from a place of understanding. You want to seek that. And like when you ask that question, don't have ulterior motives where you're asking it and you already have the answer and you're hoping that they say it so you can start solving it. Like genuinely, when you ask that question, your next place should be actively listening. Not actively listening to like respond and come up with a solution and get an answer to a question you have. You have to be genuinely curious in asking the question. The second phase of it, you have to actively listen to that business partner or that CEO or that founder or that business owner or that sales leader or that HR leader and actively listen, right? And another way that I do that is like I like to go deep into those. So if they say, "Yeah, Chris, like if I'm working with a sales team and we got a client and I'm talking with their sales leader and like, man, one of the biggest struggles I had is like, I feel like we don't really have a great marketing motion now, right? I just don't leave it there and just like, okay, great, let's solve it. I'm like, okay, look, tell me a little bit more. Tell me more about what you mean about that. And this is a time where I seen a great YouTube video and I forgot the guy's name. He's a public speaker, and this is not mine. I shout you out. I forgot your name, but you had an awesome YouTube video, and I took it a lot away from that. And I'll make sure to drop that YouTube video in the description so you have the link. But when you ask those lines of questioning and you dive in deeper, it gives that person across from you that time to take what's called an emotional breath, right? Like if they're talking about something frustrating, that's an emotion. And you just don't want to like take that moment and they say, back to that example, is like, I don't really know if we have a great marketing motion or great strategies around the marketing team. And you're just like, okay, great. Let's start to solve that. Like dive a little deeper and say, okay, like let's dive a little bit more. Tell me more about that. And then they go on and share more about what they're seeing and like, what else? And then they go back in and say what else that is going on, right? That is all about having that landing question to establish trust, right? You're coming into that business, you're not going to the competency way and saying, "Hey, our your sales are down 30% and I need an explanation of why these sales are down. I need a plan of how we're going to get these back up 30% to meet our forecast that we had." Like again, that's competency side, right? Coming in from the trusting perspective, asking that question, actively listening, and giving that person across from you that time to share and take that emotional breath. Take that time to share out a pain, to share out a frustration, or it could be even a great side, right? Where they share an opportunity that they're excited about. Allow that opportunity. That focuses on building trust and it is a longer term investment. Trust 1000% as the core focus is a longer term investment. But when you build those trusts, when you build trust during difficulty, when you build trust during challenge, that's the best time where you foster those great collaborative relationships inside the business. So for me, that's that really third point. And a lot of times as finance professionals, and listen, I'm not saying like I made these mistakes, right? I've come in guns blazing and wanted to talk about everything I knew about CAC cohort analysis and customer lifetime value and cash run rates and rule of 40 and all the different metrics and all the different things I know. ASC 606. I've come in guns blazing because I wanted to be the smartest finance person. And that, in terms of a collaborative relationship and building that gap of collaboration, that was not successful for me. And the moment that I focus on building more of the trust, and it's difficult. The reason why that's difficult is because competency, that identifies and correlates to us as finance professionals, where it's like, if I'm competent, that's going to be more quantitative. And that's where I am most comfortable. Finance people by nature are going to be more comfortable in anything quantifiable than they are going to be qualitative. Thus the example, right? That's why we go to competency. Competency, we know our numbers, we know our metrics, we know our accounting language, it's quantifiable. We're finance people, quantifiable finance, competency. It's just a natural progression of where we go. But when you say trust, that's really qualitative, right? Like, I don't know about you, and maybe feel free to drop in a comment, or as you're looking through this video, like drop in a comment on this video and say, like, is there like a equation that you could quantify trust? I have yet to think about it. But that element is very qualitative, which for us as finance professionals, when you look at the juggle between quantitative and you look at qualitative, 9 times out of 10, we're going to be like, I'm comfortable here. Like, I want to go to the numbers. I want to go to assets equal liabilities plus stockholders' equity. I'm here. But shifting that focus and bridging that gap, go to more of the qualitative side first. So that's my third point on it. Another bonus one that I want to give you around bridging the gap of communication between and collaboration with finance and non-finance, or with your clients, is the frequency that I always like to have is, like, I like to have connection points with people, right? Like, I'm a very connective person, right? Like, I like to connect. I like to what one other useful tip that is important for me that I've always had with teams that I led, even with clients, is I have either weekly or bi-weekly standing check-in points all the time. Like, I'm constantly checking in with people. I'm checking in with my team, like our team. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have our global meetings where we always have together. We keep it on the calendar unless there's something changing or I'm traveling. I still try to keep them when I'm traveling, but we keep those consistent touch points. The reason why those are important in terms of that collaboration and bridging that gap is relationships take effort, right? And you'd be surprised how many finance professionals, and it's okay. Some finance professionals, when I say, hey, when's the last time you talked to your sales or marketing person? Chris, I talk to them once a year when we go through the budgeting process. And I'm like, like, you're a growing business. Sales and in a growing business, the recipe of success: sales, marketing, finance, HR. Like, you need those people, right? And as a finance leader, that was always my primary stakeholders. The people we're hiring, the leads we're bringing in, the sales that we're closing. And then me and finance to bring all that stuff together to revenue, cash, dollar retention rate. So, like, in a high growth business, you've got to have great touch points with that. And when I find that finance professionals are only talking with in high growth growing businesses, it's like, yeah, I talk to my sales leader when we work through the budgeting cycle in September, October. And I'm like, throughout that entire year, you're not connecting with them. You don't have like a structured cadence you have with them. They're like, no, we just talk with them and we look over our annual performance and we give them our run rates and we tell them to come back and give us their marketing or sales plan. That is a missed opportunity, very missed opportunity. So a bonus one in bridging the gap around communication, have those frequent touch points. And here's the thing, keep them, right? I have touch points with I have touch points with partners. I have touch points with clients. I have touch points with my team. I have touch points with, like, my week is like constant touching base with people, right? And the reason why I love doing that is because now I'm able to get a pulse of things, right? Like, if you're only connecting with somebody once a month, or you're connecting with them once a month, or you're not having that time to that frequent, you're going to miss so much information. And tie it back also to the relationship side of it. Like, here's a great example. Like, do you want to have a personal relationship and a great relationship where it's like, yeah, I'll talk to him like twice a year, right? I'm gonna be honest. There's some of my friends that I know through college, even some of my best friends, like, we're constantly on text and we may see each other once a year, but that's after like 25 years of us establishing like a friendship, right? If you're just establishing that relationship, frequency of touch points, and I call them like posting meetings, right? And I like to keep them, even if there's not an agenda. I'm like, hey man, like, what's going on? Like, how are things going with you in the business? How are things going with you personally? Like, how's your week? Like, I like to keep that interaction, right? Again, focusing on establishing the trust and building that trust consistently. That's really, really, really important. So for me, that's a bonus tip around the collaboration, bridging that gap. And for finance professionals, bringing this all together, right? We talked about the three different areas. I shared those things. Why is this so important? When you think about the value proposition that has now fundamentally changed for finance, CFO, FP&A, accounting professionals, businesses no longer the expectation for finance is like the numbers, the metrics, like that's already a baseline expectation of any business person is like, hey, if I'm working with a finance person, they're gonna know the numbers, right? Like you're not gonna be celebrated, you're not gonna level up, you're not going to, and to be fully honest with you, like technology should know the numbers a lot faster, quicker, and efficient and more consistent than I should, right? Like I don't want to be the number person that people come to me because they want to get the numbers. Like technology should be able to enable them, equip them that if they need the numbers that they need, they should be able to get the technology, be able to do that, right? But where we're going to level up is a lot of these qualitative elements that we talked about. That is where the game changer happens. And the reason why it's a game changer is because so many business professionals, so many people outside of our bubble of finance are so used to working with just, okay, yep, all right, here's another finance person telling me, knocking me across the head because I'm over budget, talking about things I have no idea that they're talking about. They don't know my business. They don't know the pains and frustrations I'm dealing with. They don't understand our culture, right? Like you already are continuing to perpetuate that. And the moment that we're different and say, hey, here's the numbers, like here's the technologies that we're enabled to equip you with the numbers that you need. Here's the business acumen and understanding around your specific business that I know. Here's the consistency that I have and intentionality I have to be focused on building a trusting relationship with you. And here's the frequency that I'm going to have touching points to continue to learn, invest in our relationship, and learn about your business. You stack those two up, right? As a finance professional, this finance professional is what I call the fresh CFOs and the fresh finance professionals that are really going to be value added in the business, right? That's going to be really where we win. So, hey, hope you enjoyed this Fresh CFO Friday. If you have and you made it this far in the video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're watching this on YouTube. If you've enjoyed it, if you missed something, if you want to add some comments, I'd love to be interactive. I always look at my comments because I'm always learning as a sponge too. So if there's any insights you want to provide, make sure to drop that in the comments, and appreciate you taking some time out, looking on your Friday. It's, you know, I'm actually, so for me, I'm heading to Vegas next week. If you're going to be at the AICPA Engage Conference in Las Vegas, I'll actually be there from the 1st through the 7th. Yes. That's a long time in Vegas. Like literally, that is a very long time in Vegas. And you're just like, what? Chris, you're going to be there that long? Yes. So if you're going to be in Las Vegas, if you're going to be at the AICPA Engage Conference, I'll make sure to drop a link when I do the trailer for this video. That if you want to, attend, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if there's still open registration or anything around that. But if you're in Vegas at the AICPA conference, drop me a message. I'll be there. Let's meet up. Let's connect. Let's talk about some different things. And yeah, that's what I got going for me next. And as I always end, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for making it through this. And one thing I want to leave with is keep pushing, never settle, and the best is yet to come. Let's get it. Hey, thank you, everybody. Have a great Friday. One month left. 1 month left in Q2. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.